Welcome back to the Press Club. Thank you for staying tuned. I'm joined by veteran sports journalist and former director of the OECS Sports Desk, Joseph Reds Pereira. He is a cricket fan, and you have heard his voice throughout the Caribbean and way beyond. And we're so happy to have him here on our program discussing not only sports, but the news developments for the past week. And Reds, I think I'll leave that next topic to you.
Well, I mean, you just had the budget, and I was interested in the budget, but I was really interested in hearing the maiden address by the newly appointed minister, the Honorable Sean Edwards. And I think, you know, it was very interesting when I heard the announcement of the cabinet to hear a minister of youth and sport, and not youth and sport to attach to a ministry, you know, of social transformation, public service, I mean, you name it, and youth and sport, like, you know, attached on the back burner. I think it was a very positive appointment, and I think it all goes well for the future.
Now, I know that you would be very interested with the allocation. How much money has been put aside for sports, because you're involved in boxing, you're involved in a number of sports as well. So how much money has been put there, and is that adequate, given the fact that a lot of our young people gravitate to sports as a retreat, more or less?
But if you ask any minister of sport in the Caribbean, was your allotment adequate, they probably would have said, no, I would like to have more. I mean, which minister wouldn't like to have more? But I believe, from what I'm hearing, you know, in the short song bites I've heard the minister, I think he wants to approach this whole thing very differently. For example, there was a policy in the past that each association got a sum of money per year. I don't think that's going to happen anymore unless you are being productive, unless you are up running, that you've had your program for the year, you're active, you're working on the youth side, you're spreading your sport. You just can't come and say, time for my subvention. I don't think that's going to happen anymore.
And I agree with that.
Yes, you have to show definitely that what you're doing, other than saying, give me, give me, give me. That, I think, is something I expect to be spelled out in greater numbers. I think that the minister may focus on the club structure. You know, you talk to St. Lucians of the past, and they will talk about the great outstanding clubs of the past. You know,
CYO, the Spartans,
exactly.
the VSADCs,
because they were a club, there was a structure, there was a playing arm, and there was an administration arm. I think if you was to take a quick survey, maybe 80% of our clubs are not really clubs, they're teams. They're teams without an admin structure. So, you know, overnight that could disappear. There's no non-playing structure. And it needs a simple constitution where the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, manager must not be players. But we have not tackled that. And I've been living in St. Lucia since 1984. And I'm sure Dr. Vaughan Lewis will say yes, that in 1985 I wrote to him saying, and this is not just St. Lucia, that one of our real fragile areas is the club structure. You know, the club structure will bring about strong associations. Associations have a mandate because the club structure is strong. So it's not the captain and vice captain that is coming to the meeting of the association, is the president and secretary. And those people must come from your community. Those people must not be imposed. Those people must come. And you know, and I've gone through the exercise myself. In 1969, I was made president of the Guyana Basketball Association. And when I looked at it, we had teams. It wasn't clubs. But going back, I knew we had clubs. And I said to my secretary, the late Francis Knight, you know, we have to work towards a club structure. And we gave everyone 3 months notice that the season will start, let's say, in August 1, and you have to resubmit you have to resubmit your application. And would you believe that they went back into the community? There were former civil servants, there were insurance salesmen, there were, you know, people who were working in various private sectors. All of a sudden, these new people came forward, and the association became stronger.
Right.
Because you then can turn to presidents and vice presidents of these clubs and turn them into committee members of fundraising and discipline. Right now, I think, is something that needs to be tackled by the ministry. It needs to be tackled by the association themselves. Because in many cases, the season is about to start. I come and I want to pay my entry fee. You ain't going to bother whether I'm a club or not. You just want to get the season started.
Yes.
I'm saying at some point that has got to be looked at, and I think that the Minister of Youth and Sport, the Honourable Sean Edwards, will be looking at the club structure seriously. It can't happen in 2012. It's too far gone maybe, but I think he can well give notice that in 2013 we'll be focusing on the club structure. It's got to be something coming from the Ministry of Youth and Sport, the associations themselves, and I think the Olympic Committee has got a role to play here in making associations stronger through a non-playing executive of the clubs. There will be much more accountability.
And I hope that many of people involved in clubs are hearing this, because I think this is an excellent point that you're making. I have made the point too that, you know, our sports, we don't do very well in sports because there is no structure, and that might speak to some of the points that you're making. There is hardly any structure in what we have. You know, we have the Volleyball Association, which is doing well. Since the boxing association was revived, it's been doing very well. The swimmers, they do very well. Football, I think we can do a lot more with these.
Well, Clinton,
with
football
these
in the Caribbean has gone through a cloud
Yes.
since the happenings of what took place in Port of Spain. So it's very difficult now for football to quickly re-emerge. I mean,
but even before that, Reds, I mean,
yeah, well, I mean, when I came to St. Lucia in '84, football was of a very high standard.
Exactly.
I mean, I saw with my own eyes. I did commentary in the game where St. Lucia beat Trinidad in Jamaica. Well, maybe we go back to the club structure. You know,
that's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying, because it's the same thing you're saying. But when you have competitions, you have teams registering, but you don't have clubs registering for tournaments.
Yeah. But I want to challenge you, Clinton, on something you just said. I think volleyball in this country could be much stronger. I don't believe, I mean, football is a national sport.
Right.
Cricket is a national sport. I think basketball, you can say, is a national sport. Track and field has got the potential of being a national sport, but I don't know where all the clubs come from, but I think you have a lot of numbers there. But a sport like volleyball, which is a cheap sport to play, can be played in grass. And I think, you know, Clinton, if you was to do an examination of how many districts that volleyball is played under, and I asked you to do that at some time, so you can prove me wrong. And to be honest, the same thing of netball.
Netball is half dead.
Can be played. Well, no, I think the focus is on basically the national teams.
Right, that's it.
Right.
That's why I say it's half dead.
They just had an independence tournament which had a smattering of a wider spread. But netball and volleyball, to me, and I'm not taking a pot shot at these sports, is my own conviction, that could be better, because those things can be played in grass. You can have volleyball played in grass, netball can be played in grass, and therefore it can be played on every community. And what you don't want is just one team coming out of Soufrière, or one team coming out of Vieux Fort, or one team coming out of Choiseul. What you want is a focus on getting 5 or 6 clubs in each area.
Right.
So that there's competition in Soufrière, there's competition in Vieux Fort. But that can only happen if there is a policy towards that.
Yeah.
Or else what you're going to have is a small number coming from each area, yet the sport is not deep-rooted,
Right.
as football is deep-rooted, etc. But this is not a press club for sports, so let's move on to another topic.
Anyway, you know, once you talk in sports, I mean, I'll be with you. And probably I'm the wrong person to be seated next to you when we talk in sports, because I can talk sports all day, all night, you know, for the rest of my life. But yeah, on the volleyball issue, we do very well in the Caribbean. I'm talking about St. Lucia, and we will go to break on that point. We do very well, or we have been doing very well.
Was doing well at the OECS level.
Yes.
But now I think that's changed a bit. But, you know, when you get out of the OECS level, I don't believe that Martinique is being used enough by the Volleyball Association to help us to lift the national standard. We have just qualified along with St. Vincent. I think that Martinique is the correct people to really help us to lift the national standard, to prepare us to go and challenge the Barbados and the Bahamas and the Trinidad. That's not being done.
We should be out. We should be getting out more, and we play up to the level of our competition. And on that note, we'll have to take a break. You're watching the Press Club. I'm here with Joseph Reds Pereira, former director of the OECS Sports Desk, coordinator there, and he is a veteran journalist. Stay with us. We'll have more discussions in a moment.